Have you ever looked in the mirror and asked yourself, why am I not like them? Why can't I be more perfect? Maybe you've stood in front of a photo on social media, seeing someone with flawless skin, an ideal figure, a life that seems complete. And then a quiet feeling of not being enough begins to slip into your heart. I still remember the first time I realized I had been trying so hard to be perfect in the eyes of others. Back then, I was in my early 20s, fresh out of school, stepping into a new job. I believed that to be liked and respected, I had to always dress neatly, work without mistakes, speak carefully, and never reveal my weaknesses. I tried to create a flawless version of myself, but the cost was exhaustion, pressure, and feeling disconnected from who I truly was. Buddha once taught, the one who accepts themselves as they are has found the path to liberation. We are not born to be copies of some invisible standard. Every wrinkle, every scar, every stumble is a story, a witness to the journey we've walked. True beauty is not in perfection, but in truth, and truth often carries cracks. The day I began to realize this was when a close colleague told me, I like you because you're not afraid to share your mistakes. It makes you feel more real and relatable. I was surprised. What I once saw as flaws were actually the bridges that connected me to others. In today's world, where glowing images are crafted by studio lights and filters, accepting yourself is an act of courage. We're surrounded by messages that say only when we reach a certain standard, prettier, smarter, richer, will we be worthy of love. But that's an illusion. True love, both from others and from ourselves, blooms when we dare to live honestly. Accepting yourself doesn't mean stopping growth or not striving to be better. It means that even as you're changing and improving, you still feel gratitude and love for yourself in every moment, even in moments of awkwardness, weakness, or imperfection. The day I started seeing this, I began smiling at my own flaws, because sometimes the cracks are exactly where the light gets in. I used to be a devotee of perfection. In everything I did, I tried to achieve the best result. Reports had to be flawless, my appearance had to be neat, my words had to be carefully measured before they left my mouth. I believed that if I were perfect, people would like, respect, and accept me. But the harder I tried, the more I felt like someone wearing a heavy mask, smiling on the outside, but utterly exhausted inside. One day, during an important meeting, I made a small mistake in my presentation. The room went silent. My face turned red. My heart raced. It felt like I had ruined everything. But to my surprise, after the meeting, a colleague came over, patted my shoulder, and said, "It's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. Honestly, I thought you handled the situation really well." Those words made me pause. Maybe others weren't demanding perfection from me as much as I was demanding it from myself, and perhaps my imperfection was what made me more approachable. Why do we fear imperfection? This fear often stems from two things. One, comparison. From a young age, we are measured against others, grades, looks, achievements. Every time we see someone better, we feel lacking. Two, fear of rejection. We believe that if we don't meet certain standards, we won't be loved or respected. Both of these lead us to create an ideal standard and constantly strive to meet it. But as Buddha taught, comparison is the root of suffering. When you let go of comparison, you will see that you are already complete. The lesson from the cracked pot, I remember a Buddhist story. A man carried water using two clay pots. One was perfect, the other had a crack. Day after day, the cracked pot leaked water along the way, so by the time they reached home, it was only half full. Feeling ashamed, it asked its owner to throw it away. But the owner smiled and said, "Don't you see? Along the path where you leaked water, flowers have grown. You've been watering the road without even knowing it." That story made me realize our cracks, our flaws, when seen through the eyes of love, can be gifts to the world. Imperfection deepens connection. Have you ever felt closer to someone who shared their failures and mistakes? Imperfection makes us real, relatable, and easier to empathize with. When we dare to show our vulnerability, others feel safe to do the same. That's when genuine connection happens. Personally, once I stopped fearing my flaws being exposed, my conversations became deeper. Instead of only talking about successes, I shared my failures, rejections, and times of feeling lost. Surprisingly, these stories touched people far more than my achievements ever could. Acceptance is not giving up. Some people fear that accepting themselves means they'll stop trying. In truth, it's the opposite. When we accept ourselves, we stop wasting energy on hiding or pretending. We use that energy to grow and learn, but now with a lighter heart. Buddha once said, acceptance of yourself is the foundation for transformation. When you love yourself as you are, you will naturally become better. How I learned to embrace imperfection. 1. Recognize the inner critic. When I made a mistake or felt inferior, a voice inside would say, "You've failed." I learned to pause, acknowledge it, and say, "Thank you for your concern, but I choose a different view." 2. Practice gratitude for my cracks. I wrote down what I gained from my flaws. Forgetfulness taught me to be more mindful. Failure taught me empathy. 3. Find beauty in truth. I stopped hiding my imperfections. Instead of only posting perfect photos, I shared candid, unpolished moments. 4. Nurture accepting spaces. I surrounded myself with people who didn't demand a perfect act, but encouraged me to be real. When imperfection becomes strength. Interestingly, when you're no longer pressured to be perfect, you're more willing to try new things. Failure doesn't scare you because you know it's part of the journey. You dare to step out of your comfort zone, to love more fully, to live more openly. The day I embraced imperfection, I felt so much freer. I no longer tried to please everyone. I listened to myself, valued each small step forward, no matter how small. And that's what I want to share in the final part, how embracing imperfection completely changed my life and how you can start this journey too. I once believed that to be happy, I had to be good enough in everyone's eyes. But I realized happiness doesn't come from meeting every external standard. It comes from stepping into the world as my true self. Since accepting my imperfections, I've felt so much lighter. I no longer stay up late fixing every tiny detail in a report. I no longer delete a photo just because it's not as perfect as one's online. I no longer feel fear every time I make a mistake. This doesn't mean I've stopped trying. On the contrary, I still work hard and learn every day. The difference is I no longer act out of fear of judgment. I act because I love my journey. I want to grow, not to please others, but to feel proud of myself. I've found that when I show my true self, others feel safe to do the same. They share with me stories they've never told anyone. We laugh, we cry, and we feel relieved knowing that everyone has cracks. We just often hide them. If you're reading this and feel not enough, I want you to know you are enough. Not when you lose weight, earn more money, or achieve a goal, but right now, in this very moment. Look at your cracks with gratitude. They're not proof you've failed, they're proof you've lived, learned, loved, and experienced. Like the cracked pot watering the path of flowers, you too are adding beauty to the world, even without realizing it. Try this. Every day, choose one imperfection of yours and write down one reason it makes you more beautiful, more real, or stronger. Over time, you'll see imperfection is not something to hide, but something to honor. When we stop chasing the illusion of perfection, we begin to live more authentically and freely. We love ourselves not just for what we accomplish, but for who we are. And that is the beauty of imperfection. It makes us more human, and that is truly beautiful.